In this video, I want to speak to the part of you that knows you were never meant to blend in, fade out, or be forgotten. You feel it, don't you? The quiet scream inside, begging for more, for meaning, for impact, for something real. This isn't just another video, it's a wake-up call, because the world has tried to make you disposable, replaceable, forgettable. But deep down, you know better. You were born to rise, to stand out, to become. So stop waiting for permission. Let's unlock the fire they tried to bury. It's your time now. Let's begin. Let us begin with a simple yet piercing question. When did you last feel irreplaceable? Not admired, not tolerated, but essential, unique, like the universe whispered you into existence for a reason only you could fulfill. You see, in today's world, we are conditioned to believe that being replaceable is the norm. That your job, your thoughts, your essence can be swapped, upgraded, outsourced, or deleted with a single click. But this was not always so. There was once a time when to be human was to strive, to carve your name into the stone of existence through passion, suffering, and will. Today, however, society has mechanized the human spirit. It has turned you into a part standardized, predictable, and convenient to discard. This phenomenon is no accident. It is the slow erosion of the individual, disguised as progress. Modernity no longer asks, who are you becoming, but rather, how well do you fit in? The system does not reward uniqueness, it penalizes it. If you question too loudly, you are a rebel. If you step out of line, you are a liability. If you think for yourself, you are difficult to manage. And so you conform, not out of choice, but out of quiet fear. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this collapse long before it reached the pixelated halls of social media and AI automation. He saw the death of the sovereign individual, a being once revered for their power to create values, being replaced by what he called the last man, comfortable, entertained, and utterly forgettable. The modern man is not free. He is distracted, he is entertained to death, and worst of all, he is proud of his chains, because they are invisible. Society doesn't need to beat you into submission anymore. It just needs to keep you scrolling, shopping, smiling. Keep your mind busy, but your soul asleep. You were not born to be one of many. You were born to be one of one. But from the moment you could speak, you were taught to obey. Sit still, raise your hand, follow the rules. Fit in, don't make noise, don't ask why. And this conditioning follows you into adulthood. It's why you hesitate before expressing a real opinion. It's why you feel guilty when you choose solitude over shallow company. It's why you feel the ache of inauthenticity after a day spent pretending. And this is the root of the disposable man, a person who is no longer rooted in purpose, but programmed to please. He has no true convictions, only reactions. He mimics instead of creates. He adapts instead of transforms. He lives for likes, not for legacy. Because somewhere along the way, he was taught that blending in is safer than becoming. But let me tell you this, nothing great was ever born from safety. Fire does not apologize for burning. The sun does not ask permission to rise. And you at your core were never meant to dim your light to make others comfortable. The tragedy of modern man is not that he is hated, but that he is forgotten. Not because he lacked potential, but because he buried it under the need to be liked. This is what Nietzsche warned us of, the flattening of the human spirit, the mass production of souls who never dared to suffer for something great. In his eyes, a true life is one that is created, not consumed. It is one that risks everything in the pursuit of becoming, not what society expects, but what the self demands. Do you know what makes something irreplaceable? It is not perfection. It is not even brilliant. It is authenticity, the rare and dangerous decision to be exactly who you are, no matter the cost. That is the antidote to disposability, and that is the path the world fears, because it cannot control a man who creates himself. This does not mean you must rebel for the sake of rebellion. That is just another form of dependence. It means you must choose, every day, to think for yourself, to feel deeply, to live deliberately. It means you must listen, not to noise, not to trends, not to fear, but to the quiet thunder inside your chest that says, I was born for more. Understand this, being replaceable is not your destiny. It is the result of decades of soft training, of silent defeats, of tiny compromises that taught you to shrink when you were meant to expand. but it is not irreversible. Every time you tell the truth, when it would be easier to lie, you reclaim your soul. Every time you say no to the herd, and yes to your own voice, you sharpen your edge. Every time you choose creation over consumption, you rise. The world doesn't need more good boys. It needs dangerous men who are good by choice. It needs those who have faced their own chaos and emerged with vision. Not men who obey, but men who lead themselves without asking for applause. So the question remains, will you be remembered or will you be recycled? Because in the end, the disposable man dies many deaths before his heart stops beating. But the one who dares to become, he lives eternally in the fire he lit within. And that is how the soul becomes irreplaceable. There was a time when suffering had meaning, when pain shaped character, when hardship was the womb of greatness. But today, comfort has become the new god, and we worship it with quiet desperation. Modern man does not seek truth. He seeks sedation. He does not climb mountains. He scrolls. He does not wrestle with questions. He Googles. In the pursuit of ease, he has amputated the soul. Nietzsche saw this coming. He did not fear suffering. He feared the absence of it. For he understood that when you remove the necessity to struggle, you remove the opportunity to grow. What happens when mankind no longer needs to strive? He stagnates. He decays. And worse, he forgets who he is. Nihilism, that great shadow cast over modern life, is not born from war or chaos. No, it is born from peace too long preserved, from pleasure turned into addiction, from existence stripped of meaning. It is born from the quiet despair of a life too easy to be noble. The modern man feels empty, not because life is hard, but because it is hollow. He wakes each day, surrounded by luxuries his ancestors could not imagine, yet feels more lost than those who fought with bare hands just to survive. Why? Because he has been numbed by fuff. Do not mistake comfort for joy. They are not the same. Joy is the fruit of effort. The fire that comes after the storm has passed. Comfort, on the other hand, is the blanket you wrap yourself in when you no longer wish to feel. It seduces you slowly, whispering that pain is pointless, that struggle is outdated, that passion is dangerous. And so you trade in your fire for safety, your depth for distraction, your meaning for convenience. This is not evolution, it is regression. In our effort to eliminate suffering, we have sterilized the human spirit. No more risk, no more intensity, just screens and schedules and shallow smile. The result? A culture of ghosts, people who are alive but not truly living. They fear discomfort so deeply, they never allow themselves to be reborn through it. Nietzsche called this the sickness of the last man. He who avoids all danger, embraces all mediocrity, and smiles as his soul starves. The last man has no dreams beyond survival. He wants only to be entertained, not awakened. He feels that suffering is unjust, when in truth, it is the furnace through which values are forged. What makes a man strong is not what he owns but what he overcomes. When all obstacles are removed, so too is the need for will, and when will dies, so does the man. In this age of luxury, we are surrounded by those who have never had to fight for anything real. They call this freedom, but it is not freedom. It is a slow death masked in comfort. True freedom comes from the ability to rise above, not to sink below. It is the power to say yes to challenge, to choose discipline when indulgence is easier, to stare into the abyss and not blink. Modern society tells you to avoid pain, but what it truly avoids is death. It does not want you to suffer, because suffering might awaken you. It might make you ask dangerous questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I willing to die for? But instead of answers, you are given distractions, apps, phrases like live your best life that mean nothing and cost everything. But beneath all that noise there is still a pulse, a silent rebellion in your chest. You feel it when the party ends, when the lights dim, when you stare into the mirror and know you've traded your potential for peace. That voice that says this cannot be all, that is your soul knocking, begging for a war worth waging. And Nietzsche knew, the soul demands confrontation, not with others, but with itself, with weakness, with fear, with complacency. That battle is sacred. It is what transforms man into more than just flesh. It makes him a creator, one who gives birth to values not inherited, but discovered through fire. So ask yourself, what have you suffered for? What have you bled for? What sacred struggle defines you? Because without it, you are float long enough, and you begin to believe nothing matters. That is nihilism, not the scream of despair, but the soft whisper of nothingness. It tells you why bother, it numbs your will, it steals your voice, and before you know it, you are smiling in change. But there is a way back, not through ease, but through resistance, through the voluntary embrace of hardship, not for its own sake, but because what lies on the other side is worth it. That is how meaning is born. You must go into the cave, face your shadows, wrestle with your demons, and emerge forged. There is no purpose without pain, no greatness without grind, no soul without suffering. This is not pessimism, it is liberation. Because once you understand this, you are no longer afraid to feel. You stop avoiding discomfort, you welcome it, you learn from it, and you rise through it. Then, and only then, do you become untouchable. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become strong, and strength, in a world built on sedation, is the ultimate rebellion. Nietzsche saw this long before we numbed ourselves into forgetting it. The world may continue to chase comfort, but you, if you dare, can choose something greater, meaning earned through fire. What are you if not what others think of you? This is the silent question modern man wakes to each morning, though he never says it aloud. He posts, he performs, he smiles, he calculates. But underneath it all is the trembling fear that without validation he does not exist. That if no one claps, his worth collapses. And so, he becomes not a person, but a mirror, reflecting what the world expects, obedient, shiny, dead inside. This is the slavery of the modern soul, not chains made of iron, but chains made of approval. He bows not to a king, but to the algorithm. He is not whipped, but liked. He does not think, he reacts, not from essence, but from expectation. And in this slow death by applause, he loses the one thing no one else can give him, himself. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this rot before it spread into every corner of our life. He did not merely warn us of physical submission, but of the more dangerous kind, psychological obedience. The kind that turns men into puppets, dressed in status, performing success, mouthing borrowed beliefs. Identity built on such fragile scaffolding is not identity at all, it is imitation. And the man who imitates too well forgets there was ever something worth protecting inside him. Do you know who you are when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when there is no applause, no comment, no witness? Do you still feel real, or do you only come alive in the eyes of others? That is the test, and most today would fail. Modern society feeds on the weak sense of self. It rewards those who conform quickly, who speak only when spoken to, who decorate their cages, and call it ambition. It says be yourself, but punishes originality. It markets individuality while promoting uniformity. This is not freedom, it is manipulation. It is the soft, seductive prison of validation. And the tragedy is that it feels good, for a moment, to be seen, to be praised, to be accepted. It intoxicates, but like all drugs, it fades. And then you need more. One post becomes 10. One compliment becomes addiction. One voice inside you becomes drowned by 1,000 voices outside of you. And what is left? A performance, a hollow actor, playing a role called self. Nietzsche would ask, who wrote your script? Was it your parents, your culture, your fear? Did you choose this name, this goal, this mask, or did you inherit it? Have you ever had the courage to say no, not just to others, but to the false self you've constructed to survive in a world of mirrors? He believed that identity is not something found, it is something forged. You are not born with meaning, you must create it, through suffering, through defiance, through rebellion against everything in you that seeks comfort over truth. The self is not a gift, it is a conquest, and only the brave ever win it. What does it mean to rebel inwardly? It means to stop asking the world who you are. It means to sit in silence and listen, not to noise, but to the stirrings of your real voice. The one that whispers things you are afraid to hear. The one that calls you to paths that others avoid. The one that says, this is not who you are, even when the world cheers for your disguise. And that voice, it is dangerous, because it demands change. It demands the death of the false self. It demands transformation, not decoration. And transformation is terrifying, because you will lose the people who only loved your mask. You will lose comfort, certainty, routine, but you will gain something greater, authenticity, a spine, a soul. Nietzsche called this the will to power, not over others, but over the chaos within. The courage to sculpt your own values, to walk your own path, to become something the world has never seen before. Yourself, not the self they trained, not the self they praised, but the one that burns quietly beneath the layers, waiting for you to stop pretending. And understand this. As long as you live for approval, you will never know love, because love that is bought through obedience is not love. It is manipulation, and worth that depends on applause is not worth. It is marketing. You were not born to be liked. You were born to become, to rise, to suffer, to carve your name not on screens but on the walls of existence. But becoming is bloody. It means looking in the mirror and rejecting the version of yourself that's easy to admire. It means killing comfort. It means saying no to everything that keeps you small, polite, agreeable. It means being willing to lose the world. If it means finding your soul, and in that losing, you begin to win. Not trophies, not followers, but depth. Meaning, the kind that no one else can validate because no one else can give it to you. It is earned. It is sacred. It is yours alone. So I ask you again, who are you? When the lights go out, when there is no stage, no audience, no reward, do you still exist? Or have you become a ghost haunting your own life? Because in this age of performance, the real rebellion is not louder voices. It is silent authenticity, the choice to become, rather than be chosen, the courage to disappoint everyone, but yourself. That is what Nietzsche called greatness. Not power over others, but power over the lie. And once you have that, once you truly live from the inside out, no one can own you again. Not with fame, not with flattery, not even with love. You will be free, and freedom, real freedom, is the only thing in this world that cannot be replaced. What if I told you the version of yourself you cling to is the very thing holding you back? That everything you were taught to protect, your image, your comfort, your certainty, must be destroyed if you ever wish to rise beyond mediocrity. This is the essence of self-overcoming. And though the world will never teach it, your soul has always known. We live in a time where progress is defined by external upgrades, new devices, new habits, new performances. But what good are these if the inner man remains untouched? What good is a faster life if it's still headed nowhere? True progress does not move outward. It moves inward, into the fire, into the chaos, into the dark corners of the self that most are too terrified to face. Nietzsche understood this deeply. He spoke of the self not as something given, but as something earned. Not a product of society, but a rebellion against it. He did not romanticize suffering, but he revered what it could awaken in a person willing to endure it. Because in pain the false dies, in solitude the real emerges, and in radical authenticity, human being transforms into something greater, something the world cannot replace. But transformation is not a gentle process. It is not guided by affirmations or applause. It begins with a violent confrontation, the realization that the life you inherited is not the life you are meant to live, that the values you were handed do not belong to you, that your instincts, long buried beneath conformity, are crying out to be heard. Most people avoid this moment at all costs. They drown it in entertainment. They silence it with routine. They deny it because it is easier to play a role than to question the script. But the one who dares to pause, to listen, to feel that person, begins the path of self-overcoming. It starts with suffering, not the accidental kind, but the chosen kind. The suffering of letting go of who you were, the suffering of being misunderstood, of losing friends, of breaking habits, of walking alone. Because growth is lonely. No one can walk into your abyss for you. No one can face your shadows but you. And until you do, you will remain in bondage, attached to a version of yourself designed by fear. Solitude is the next fire. In a world addicted to noise, silence is revolutionary. Most avoid it because silence reveals the truth. And truth, when it first appears, is not comforting. It is shattering. It tells you what you don't want to hear, that you've been pretending, that you've been small, that you've been asleep. But once you hear it, you cannot go back. You either ignore it and live a half-life, or you listen and begin the real one. In solitude, the illusions fall, the masks crack. You begin to meet yourself not as a concept, but as a force. not as a label, but as a living will. That will, your will, is the key. Nietzsche called it the will to power, not over others, but over the lesser versions of yourself. The habits that weaken you, the lies that soothe you, the stories that keep you safe but stagnant. To overcome yourself is to declare war, not with swords but with choices. To wake up and do what terrifies you, to speak what burns in your throat, to choose discipline over ease, creation over consumption, truth over comfort. And each time you do, the old self crumbles and a new one is born, not through imitation, but through becoming. Radical authenticity is the fruit of this process. It is not flamboyant. It is not loud. It is a quiet, immovable presence that no longer needs validation. The man who has overcome himself does not chase meaning. He exudes it. He is no longer disposable because there is no copy of him. He does not conform because he has nothing left to prove. His life is not a performance. It is a statement. But be warned, authenticity will cost you. You will lose the approval of the masses. You will stand out. You will make others uncomfortable because your presence becomes a mirror, and most cannot bear to see what they've refused to become. But you will also gain something greater than all of it. Self-respect. That rare fire that cannot be bought or borrowed. That fire that reminds you in the face of any storm, you are your own foundation. The disposable man cannot survive without applause. But the one who has overcome himself needs no audience. He walks with purpose, not permission. He is not better than others. He is simply not bound by them. He has bled, burned, and rebuilt himself too many times to fear being alone. And in this detachment, he becomes powerful, not by domination but by liberation. The path of self-overcoming is not for everyone. Most will choose comfort, most will choose safety, but a few will feel the pull, a quiet ache that says, there must be more than this. If you feel that pull, do not ignore it. Follow it. It will lead you into darkness. It will demand your death, not of the body but of the identity you never chose. And if you endure, you will emerge, not as someone new but as someone true. And that, in a world that thrives on replication, is the rarest miracle of all. Not to find yourself but to create yourself. Not to be made by the world, but to rise beyond it. That is the way forward, and only the brave will walk it. So now you stand at the edge, not of the world, but of yourself. You have seen what has been done to man, how he has been tamed, traded, and made disposable. You've seen how comfort, though dressed as paradise, slowly poisons purpose. You've seen how identity, when borrowed from the crowd, becomes a mask, so convincing that even the wearer forgets the face beneath it. And most of all, you've glimpsed the terrifying beauty of what it means to overcome. But none of this matters unless you move, unless you act. Philosophy, when left in thought, is dead. It must breathe through decision. It must cry out through your life. The world does not need more agreeable men. It does not need more obedient thinkers, more perfectly filtered shadows. It needs those who burn from within, those who are willing to suffer meaningfully, walk alone unapologetically, and create values where none were given. Because in the end, no one can validate the fire inside you. No one can walk this path for you. You must decide, will you live and die a copy, or will you become a creator of yourself, forged in truth, indifferent to applause, immune to disposal. This is your call to rise, to reject sedation, to destroy what no longer serves, to awaken. You are not here to fit in. You are here to become.